Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. The Atheist Experience is live January 19th, 2003. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Martin Wagner. Ashley Perrien, my co-host as always. And with us on the TV today is Charles Tabony, who is running this fine University Atheist Agnostics group that is taking off like a rocket at UT. And he's going to talk about that and some other interesting stuff. So we're happy to have you.
Thanks.
All right. Charles is a man of few words, but we'll try to get him to open up on the show today. That's okay. You've got your little one-person drill team over there, so you'll be someone rooting for you. You'll do fine. This show is sponsored by Atheist Community of Austin, nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings every Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m. downtown at Hot Jumbo Bagels, which is located at 307 West 5th Street between Guadalupe and Lavaca, except for the first Sunday of every month, when we have our lecture series, which is now held at the Austin History Center, at the which is at 9th and Guadalupe, I think is the intersection. And that's at noon now. So noon on the first Sunday of every month. Our next lecture will be the 2nd of February.
Okay.
I think that's the first Sunday. Correct me if I'm wrong. But
I don't know if the History Center is going to be a permanent thing.
Yeah, well, for now, that's where it's at.
For the next one meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. So we can't, we can't foresee the future. We don't have, Sylvia Brown here in the studio to tell us where we'll be doing it in March. But in any case, that's where it's going to be in February. And the speaker will be Arlo Pignati doing his most recent updated version of the ever-popular Holy Rollin' Paraphernalia Traveling Roadshow and whatever he's calling it these days. It's great. He gets all this wild Christian stuff, products, weird, bizarre things you just couldn't imagine, and shows them off to us for our sardonic amusement. Yeah. And Arlo will be the guest on next week's TV show to sort of give a little sneak preview of that. We'll roll that. And speaking of, I saw an interesting little product that I would love for Arlo to see, and I'll talk about that in just a second. Anyway, just other ACA stuff that goes on. This is weekly, every Monday, Godless Gamers, 7 o'clock p.m. at Russell and Virginia Glasser's house. And Atheist Happy Hour is still happening at Antonio's Tex-Mex. Yep. About 7:30-ish in the evenings on Thursdays. But people trickle in all night. There's no set time it starts. And that's located, Antonio's is near the Highway 183 and I-35 intersections. So that's a nice little evening get-together. The Nonprofits, our weekly internet radio show, hosted by Jeff D., is currently on hiatus. No word on when they're going to be bringing it back, doing more live shows. But for the time being, you can visit our website at atheist-community.org and go to the radio page, and you can hear MP3 streams of the last 10 or 12 shows that they've done. So hopefully they'll kind of rejuice their batteries and get going on that again, because that was a very well received show. Yes. A lot of even nationally, was getting really positive response, and was, Jeff tells me, had the second highest listener base on Atheist,
the site.
Yeah,
on the whole site.
Right after the Infidel Guy, which is Rudy's show, which is the most popular Atheist. So that's way to go, guys. So anyway, it's on hiatus now, but visit our website for past episodes and send them emails harassing them to get back on. Okay, and last but not least, of course, University Atheist Agnostics, UT student organization started up by this guy, entering its second semester. There I am. And they meet Friday afternoon at Rainey Hall, which is...
it's the southwest corner of the Six-Pack.
Okay. And that's 4:30 in the afternoon on Fridays. 4. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I think we have a title for that. So, and Charles is going to, in just a matter of seconds, there it is, room 3.102A. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Fridays at 4, HRH 3.102A, and in a matter of just a very few moments, Charles will be telling us all about the group. And let me see. Yeah, that is it. That's it for the opening announcements. To find out more about us, visit our lovely website, atheist-community.org, and shoot some email our way. And here we are again. Ashley, time for the news.
Okay.
What's happening in the world? Okay. That we might care about.
We'll start off with the serious stuff and then try and lighten it up at the end, because we don't want to get too depressing.
Well, great. You've really set that up I was in a cheerful mood now for the last 5 minutes, and it's
Well, we'll get back there.
Okay.
Church-state separation.
That old
Apparently, people have been yapping about it all week long. And a couple people high up in our courts, too. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia.
Scalia, I think it is. Yeah.
Scalia.
Yes.
Complained Sunday that courts have gone overboard in keeping God out of government. Scalia, speaking
what
as
God?
Yeah, whose?
Which one?
Yeah. And how do you go overboard in doing that? I mean, either he's in or he's out, right?
Well, he gave the example of the California ruling that school children can't be made to say the Pledge of Allegiance because they have under God in there, saying, we shouldn't be. That kind of thing is just fine. We are one nation under God.
Well, says him.
Yeah. Let's see. He was speaking at a religious ceremony.
Of course. And
said the constitutional wall between church and state has been misinterpreted by both the Supreme Court and the lower courts. As an example, he pointed to the California thing. The rally-style event drew one lone protester who silently held a sign promoting separation of church and state.
Well, hooray for that guy. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I think you don't, I can imagine Fredericksburg, Virginia. You wouldn't see too many brave, out-of-the-closet atheists in that little conservative southern nook, I don't think.
Yeah, the sign back here which says, get
probably
religion.
David Clark. He's over there.
Yay, David.
I mean, it's not too far a drive from where he lives now.
The sign back here which says, get religion out of government can be imposed on the whole country. I have no problem with that philosophy being adopted democratically. If the gentleman holding the sign would persuade all of you of that, then we could eliminate under God from the Pledge of Allegiance. That could be democratically done. So if we can take a vote to get God out of the government, then he's fine with it.
Excuse me, but wasn't this already dealt with way back in the 1700s when they wrote this thing called the Constitution?
Yep, well, apparently he didn't get the notice.
Yeah, must not have. I mean, we have this thing, First Amendment, that says government can endorse, government can inhibit, government's got to stay the hell out of religion. It's right there in black and white. Yeah. So why do people need to take a vote on something that was already decided?
And besides, isn't the Constitution there to protect the people, the smaller amounts of people who have rights but don't have the powers to express them in numbers alone?
Evidently not in the minds of the Christian right.
You can't vote out laws. Just because everyone wants to do something doesn't mean that it can happen. Everyone likes speeding.
Let's have all school children decide whether they want to have homework.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, if this is just a matter of, let's all take a vote to decide what's okay and what's not okay to do, is that just what makes it?
Yeah.
That's not the basis.
Is that what makes it okay?
Yeah.
Not really.
Okay. Now, granted, in a democracy, there are things in which one votes, and there are situations where that takes place, and then the majority vote carries the day, usually in elections and deciding amendments and things like that. So if someone wants to bring up for a vote a constitutional amendment that negates the First Amendment, let them try that. Yeah. And let the people vote on it. I mean, now what's kind of creepy is what's kind of creepy is it might not. I mean, I think that a lot of Americans seem to be very self-centered people. And I'm not going to, say, liberals and conservatives either way. I mean, it's just a lot of people like this idea of freedom of speech for me.
Yeah, but nobody else.
It's my First Amendment. Yeah, but that guy over there, withholding the get religion out of government side. He doesn't need free.
Yeah, he doesn't need free speech.
Yeah, so that seems to be, unfortunately, a lot of the American public attitude towards this whole idea. Freedom of speech is okay as long as the speech being spouted is popular.
Yeah.
And if it's unpopular.
Mine.
Yeah. Or mine. Right.
Not necessarily popular, but mine.
Yeah. So.
It might be a better strategy to have a sign saying, get government out of religion. Because it goes two ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would see that point better.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. So, what is it? That's really about all I have on him. So several hundred people joined him in singing "God Bless America."
Of course, yeah.
So
wasn't Scalia like a Reagan appointee, or when did he get it?
I don't know.
He's been in for a while.
It's about aren't like over half of them Reagan appointees. So
something like they're getting up in years, and so that's kind of the scary thing. Is that
I'm not sure of him.
Court might be tipped towards like a really far right wing slant. You know. So, oh well.
And the next big government official who's out spouting that we must praise God. Our favorite John Ashcroft. He's back at it again. Attorney General John Ashcroft was speaking in Denver to a conference of religious groups again. Ashcroft said the government has discriminated against, this is going for faith-based initiatives. He is promoting faith-based initiatives again. Said the government has discriminated against such groups, and President Bush is determined they should have access to federal money to provide services. Religious groups should have access to federal money to provide services. Why then do they not get charged taxes? They don't get taxes. So why give them even more money? They're saving already. So. Well,
also, I want to hear John Ashcroft say, look into a TV camera and say, yes, I will happily give a Wiccan group under my proposed faith-based initiative
the Islamic
money.
Fundamentalist Soup Kitchen.
I'll give the Nation of Islam, I'll give Louis Farrakhan's Nation of Islam taxpayer money.
To open up the soup kitchen.
And see how the Christian right flip-flops its view on it. Again, this is all about, it's all for me, right? This is how people feel it's rights for me.
As long as it's my faith. Let's get money.
Without exception. Every Christian I've talked to about the whole faith-based initiatives, they take this point of view, ooh, this is a great idea. It's like, okay, well then do you think, how do you feel about Scientologists getting your taxpayer money? Oh no, that would be bad. So it's like they're not a real religion.
Exactly, they're not a real religion. They're a cult. They shouldn't get money.
This is what they have. But you talk to people on the Christian right, and they have this really weird sort of cognitive, skewed look on this whole thing, right? Saw Marvin Olasky, our pal Marvin, on the O'Reilly Factor this week, and they were doing this thing, right? They had this little segment where they were, Bill O'Reilly seems to have joined the ranks of, paranoid conspiracy theorists because he's got this whole idea that there's this horrible anti-Christian bias in the media. And so, in order to confirm this, he gets Marvin Olasky, who will, of course, say this sort of, and he starts talking about how, people are, they bring up John Ashcroft and they act like he's some kind of Taliban demagogue, and it's like, hello? If John Ashcroft, it doesn't occur to these guys on the Christian right that maybe some of these criticisms are based on things. Like if John Ashcroft,
based on reality.
If John Ashcroft would quit appearing in public before far right-wing, ultra-conservative religious groups and saying stuff like "America has no king but Jesus," people would not think of him as a religious demagogue.
Americans are living under God's gift of freedom.
There you go.
Actual quotes. Actual quotes.
It's like, well, I don't understand why they would call John Ashcroft these things. Hello? I mean, the man is shooting off his mouth left and right. So,
preachers don't sound this religious.
I don't know. I always find it interesting how it is that, Christians have like this clear majority in the public, right? I mean, the populace. They're not all evangelical Christians, right? Of course. But evangelical Christians, they only make up like X% of just the general American Christian population. But they are in the majority in terms of religious faith. Okay, we have a very Christian-friendly, we have an evangelical Christian-friendly president in the White House. So we have this extremely conservative administration, and yet they still want to get on television on shows like O'Reilly Factor and talk about how they're this horrible oppressed minority, and there's like one guy in one op-ed writer in the New York Times will write some some editorial with a liberal slant. That kind of, is critical of like excessive government involvement in religion, and suddenly there's this big anti-Christian media bias. It's just this whole thing, and they need to feel like they're this oppressed minority in order to maybe flatter themselves into thinking that's why we got to do more stuff.
They're the oppressed minority, which is why I speak religious groups, but then they are the majority when Bush says, well, we can push through the faith-based initiative because we know that's what everybody wants. So, are they the minority? Are they majority? Depends on who you ask and what the mood of the afternoon is.
I bet, everybody, if you were to ask everybody, everybody would also want to not pay taxes. So why isn't he pushing through this, like, let's eliminate the IRS? I mean, there's a very specific agenda. He has kowtowed. This is all his payola to the Christian right who helped him get into office. So, this is purely playing politics. And it's very cynical, but, that's kind of the nature of the beast, isn't it?
Okay. enough.
Well, now I'm thoroughly depressed and pissed off. Thank you. This is gonna
You're
be
quite welcome.
Good show today.
So, the next one then. There's a Bible college in Van Cleve, Kentucky.
Ooh.
It's a very small college. I want to say 70, 80 people, something like that. 85... One of 85 students at this small little Bible college, which stays on a hillside in Kentucky. And their phone number is causing issues.
Okay.
It is a Bible. It is a Baptist church, I think it is.
Okay.
But their telephone number prefix is 666. And they're having slight issues with this.
Okay.
Rob Roy McGregor, the college's vice president for business affairs, said staff and students want the number changed to a second prefix, which I find almost just as funny, 693. That was recently added after all the 666 numbers were taken. Mm-hmm. In the biblical book of Revelation, 666 is stamped by Satan into the foreheads or hands of those marked for eternal damnation during the last days. So all these...
Well, they both add up to the same thing, though, 693 and 666, right?
Yes, and 693, I like, 3 is a very important number in Eastern mythology.
Okay.
And so 6 being twice that, 3 threes is 9. It's also 9 is a very powerful number in Eastern mythologies. And so here, we're dumping the devil's number, but we're taking on, the Buddhist number or whatever. But they don't mind that one quite as much. So now whenever you go to this little Bible college, your phone number will be 666, the number of the beast.
Boy. Oopsie. Well, that's, yeah, it's interesting, this belief in this number, numerology and symbols. And this.
I know, it's a relatively minor thing. I mean,
and isn't it true, right? I think I've seen enough sources on this right now that whoever it was that wrote Book of Revelations, it has been determined by scholars that the number of the beast, right, who's being referred to, people in modern days now, people today, when they think of 666 and number of the beast and all that, they are completely misunderstand how ancients use numbers. Okay. And like there was this joke for a while running in the 80s that Ronald Wilson Reagan was 666 because he had 6 numbers in each of his names. 6 letters. But that's totally not how the ancients used numbers in relation to names. And particularly in Rome, when letters, Roman numerals in Roman times were letters. It has to do letters and numbers and how you spelled things. Words also had a numerological value, or numerical value, not numeral. Oh, well, it would be numerology, wouldn't it? Sort of like that. And so I think scholars have determined that the writer of Revelations was specifically referring to the Roman Emperor Nero.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So Antichrist has come and gone, it would seem.
Long time ago.
If that's really an accurate assessment of what the numbers meant. But and it's thought that he was the guy who's being spoken of because he is the first that has this really good, strong recorded history of persecuting the Christians in Rome at that time. So it stands to reason that he would be the guy being talked about as the Antichrist. Yeah. Because he's killing every Christian he can find. So that's the whole...
And of course, that was the number of the beast back then, is 666. And then when barcodes came out in the grocery store, they said, okay, that's now the mark of the beast is barcodes. And now it's chip implants.
Credit cards, when they first, that was thought to be some beastly...
Yeah, some kind of beastly mark or something. I mean, come on, it's a barcode.
I mean, they are beastly, but I mean, still. Credit cards are completely and utterly, totally evil. That's indisputable, but probably not, supernaturally evil.
not take over the world.
They're evil enough without having to throw Satan in there. It's sort of like...
They're the margarine of evil.
The margarine? Okay. Zing.
Some people out there got that, I'm sure.
Okay, yes. I can't believe it's not evil. Oh, boy.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's all kinds of fun. But Christians still, they panic over that. When I worked retail when I was
little thing that they could find.
College, I worked at a bookstore, and I had one day when a woman refused to accept $6.66 in change for purchase. So the weirdest thing, I offered to make it $6.67. She still wouldn't take it. She was like, just camp it out the door. So we were like,
cool,
weird. Well, no, I put it back in the drawer, and it was, So, we were 666 over that day. So our store was possessed for
I know. It's now the devil's place.
Yeah.
That was the turn of your atheism there.
That's it, yeah. I was taken over that day at the register.
Taken by the beast.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Well,
quick one more.
All right.
There is Saint Goncalo. This is in this actual statue. I think is in Europe somewhere. I want to say it's not actually saying here.
Oh.
Lisbon, or near Lisbon, and apparently it's a statue of him in a church. Now, if you want to cure some of your ills, what you can actually do is go up to the statue and moon it, and it will cure hemorrhoids.
No.
Apparently.
No.
Hemorrhoid sufferers are flocking to a church in central Portugal in the belief that they will be cured by exposing their afflicted behinds to the statue of a local saint.
Oh, no. Oh.
The 13th century priest also has a reputation for curing acne and helping women find husbands.
Okay. Well, that's
strange place.
Yeah. Well, that must be easy. I mean, a woman goes in the church and bears her ass in front of she'll find a husband right quick, but...
Saint Goncalo has a loyal local following.
No, this can't be true.
It's another weird part of it, too.
Okay.
Every June, during a festival in his honor in the northern town of Amarete, unmarried men and women exchange penis-shaped cakes as tokens of their affection.
You're kidding me. You have got
Not according to this article.
What, you mean like the kind they have at bachelorette parties? Penis-shaped cakes?
Apparently.
Yoy.
Little cookies and cakes. They trade them to get themselves husbands. And they all file into the church and moon a statue. And
oh, boy.
And Europeans are usually a little bit liberal.
Yeah.
But...
Okay, they probably don't have a pedophilia problem there. I mean, it seems like a very sexually open church. They're fine with it all. Yeah, we walk in, moon our statue.
Yeah.
Exchange genital cakes, and we're all fine. Yeah. Wow. So, what does the Vatican say about all this place?
They have nothing to say.
They just say, let's pretend it doesn't exist.
Exactly. Maybe it'll go away.
Yeah, we have enough problems in America. Last thing people need to do is find out about this, the Church of the...
Start flying over to Portugal and mooning statues.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh. Strange but true, folks.
Strange people in the world.
Wow.
So. And that's it for news this week.
Okay, good. I'm cheered up yet again. Thank you. Sick pin hopes.
Yeah, on bare bottoms.
Well, on bare bottoms.
I know, it took me several readings to figure out what that headline meant.
Oh, that's like a clever double entendre. That's a great headline. Sick pin hopes on bare bottoms. Lovely. Boy. Well, I understand they do that at, like, Dreamer's Video, too, so, Okay. Well, we're done with news.
Yes.
Charles.
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah.
See what I mean, folks? He's a laugh a minute. Now, you started up, actually, seriously, though, you started up University of Atheist Agnostics last semester, and it has turned into, well, it's the first that I know of at the UT campus, student group for atheists, and it really took off running, didn't it? I mean, you had a very good first semester, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
We got, like the first meeting we had, 20-something people, and then the second meeting we had 30-something, so, it took off and we had a great time last semester. We had like a movie night and a party at the end of the year, and I don't know, lots of fun. We made a lot of friends, had some good discussions. So we just started up this semester, and we got a pretty good turnout. New room, looks really nice. Has like carpeting and big thing, like padded seats and armrests, and
it's all spiffy.
Big screen and multimedia center, and so that's fun. And this semester we're trying to get more like organization in the organization.
That's fine.
Actually, like
we don't have any. I mean, so, that's all.
Yeah, we're gonna actually elect officers this semester, and assign people jobs and.
But right now, is the thrust of it just like, well, I guess like your first semester was just kind of ease everybody into it, and a social group, just let everybody get to know everybody, and then.
I guess so.
Yeah, you didn't want to like start being too activist all at once and maybe kind of freak people out. And...
Yeah, well, we're not sure we're ever going to do anything really like protests or anything.
Yeah.
Because we don't really want to we want it to be a really open discussion where anyone can come, and we don't want people to associate activism that they don't care for with our name. So if we do stuff like that, we might actually, if we have enough people, create another group just for that.
Like little subcommittees and stuff.
Well, like go under a different name, new student organization, because you only need 3 people.
Oh, okay.
So is this considered a little more educational type thing for anyone who wants to come along and just see what it's about and see what damn atheists doing?
Yeah, this time we it was our first meeting this semester, so we just asked people like why they came, what they're here for, and a lot of it was like I'm just interested in what other atheists or what atheists have to say, what you talk about, what you do, and a lot of them said they might believe something or not believe something, but they want to know what other people think. Like several of them said, I believe in God or Jesus or something, but I don't want to just close myself off. I want to look at everyone else and see, compare them. And
so you actually get believers coming to your meetings just to talk, just for the opportunity to talk to other atheists.
Yeah,
that's going to be my next question to you. Is that I know last semester you got the whole promotional ball rolling by having the little West Mall table like a lot of student groups do. And are you doing that here?
Yeah, we did that in front of Gregory Gym this semester.
Oh, okay. And so what has been the reaction of obviously Campus Crusade for Christ is there, and Young Conservatives of Texas. Well, they're not specifically religious, but I'm sure everybody in that group is religious, and I'm sure there are a great many. There's a Bucks, the Christian Frat and all the rest of it. So, there are a lot of Christian student organizations. And what has been their reaction to suddenly this presence of, these proud atheists
when they
throwing up a table and going?
When they see your table, like when you're sitting at the table, well, first of all, you get a bunch of strange looks. They'll like kind of go, what? And as they walk by, they'll like keep reading it, and they'll give these strange looks, and some will like stick their chin up or something, or they do. It's really weird. It's a very interesting, psychological experience to just sit there at this table and watch the reactions. But when people actually come up to the table, you can usually tell whether they believe in God or not, because if they do, they'll come up and like shake your hand first. And introduce themselves and be really overly courteous to you. And ask them questions, what do you do, that sort of thing. The people who are actually interested in going to the group will like come up and say, what's this about? And be curious right at first, instead of like shaking your hand or introducing themselves. But that's the first day we set up last semester, it was during orientation. I figured there'd be a bunch of people there, but there weren't, because they were like in orientation. And so I went to the West Mall, and there's only one other table there, and it was Christians on campus. And I actually knew one of the guys who was manning the table.
Oh, okay.
And so I set up right next to him, and people would like walk by and just fall over laughing as they saw like what tables were there.
Oh yeah, right next to
this guy from Canada came and like took a picture and sent it to me later.
Oh, that's great. You should have something going on like back and forth, like a checkers game or something. And that really would have.
Yeah, a lot of people will come up to us and say, "We're just glad you're here," whether they believe or not. They'll say, "We're glad you're here," just because to offer. Because like even if they believe, they'll be really annoyed by the Christians on campus who hand out these little purple flyers talking about Jesus. It's like
track cans. So you see all these mouths, trash cans filled with tracts.
Well, you see, like all over the floor and in trash cans and things. But I pick up one of each copy just so I can read it. But like someone said, pretty much everyone in this country knows who Jesus is. They really don't need to disseminate this information.
So all you churches just shut down. So we get it. We've heard it all before.
Well, I don't mean that, but like they're standing on the corner, passing out these things. It's like, it just says there was this.
Of Jesus?
There's this guy Jesus, and he was resurrected for you, and now do you want to pray for your sins?
You're either going to confront people who are already believers with that, or you're going to confront people who aren't believers with that. But you're not going to confront anybody unless they're like some exchange student from Mars. Jesus? Who's that? Yeah, I've never heard.
Yes,
of
I want one of your books. I want to read about this person.
Yeah,
like these people are definitely fundamentalists who hand it out, but like. Even when they hand it out to a non-fundamentalist, they would think they were like trying to convert them, but the they think, oh, I already believe in Jesus, toss. And the people who already don't believe in them, they're like, I don't want it,
Yeah.
So I think the only people they're actually attracting are the other fundamentalists who I think that they're doing a good thing. I want to help them out and pass out, more of these flyers. And I think that's really what
the choir.
I think that's really what they get from this is publicity for, their own people. Like, not actual. They don't actually convert anyone with these things. I mean,
But that's all. I mean, I remember when I was growing up in the church. I mean, that is just all part of it. They want you to. When you become really into it, the whole witnessing thing and spreading the word is just all part of what you do in a religion.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of doing their duty, and so generally speaking, then good positive reaction. No real. I mean, there's maybe some weird looks, but no real outright hostility or challenges. Haven't gotten anybody coming up to the table saying, "You guys are all going to hell."
We'll get questions like,
"Isn't that kind of disappointing?" Sort of.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, sometimes I'd like to just debate people, but some people come up and try ask us why we would want an organization, why we would need to, what do we do, that sort of thing. Some of them will actually want to know, and some are just like, why would you exist? Trying to
That's what we're all trying to figure out.
Then we go, oh yeah, we really have no reason to exist. Oh, bye. Like they're going to convince us or something. But
you're right. Start thinking so then.
But yeah, we had one person actually try and convince us there were souls and things like that. But most of the time it's don't even discuss religion or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Well, college campus is kind of a laid-back environment anyway.
Yeah. So, I used to debate some friends on campus because most of my friends when I was in college actually were fundamentalist Christians. For some strange reason, I don't know why that was. I'm really from.
Where'd you go to school?
This was in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, just this group of fundamentalist Christians, and hang out with them and talk and debate and stuff like that. Mostly with one of them. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. It was the kind of thing where you sit down and debate, and then that's the end of it. So
right.
She had her ideas, I had mine, and never the twain did meet.
Oh well. So you're all just wasting your time, wasting each other's time. But well, that's cool. So, but now in addition to that, that's great.
No, it actually turns out she's a Wiccan now.
Oh.
Scratch my head over that one. But I got in touch recently, and she's a Wiccan now.
Probably did the buffet religion thing and settled on that.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, well, that's great. And, congratulations on the success of the group. And I said, we'll go ahead and throw that up in a minute there. We'll go ahead and throw that title up again on the screen just to let people know. If you're a UT student or faculty member and want to know more about the organization, and, there's contact info and more info that you can, talk to Charles about it. But it's great. I mean, I've been in Austin for much longer than I care to admit, and finished up UT there. And there was never anything like that when I was a student. I had a roommate who joined Bucks, Beta Upsilon Chi, which is the Christian frat. So I know that. So the Christian student organization presence has always been really, really strong. I know in the 90s there was this aborted attempt to do some sort of a skeptics group or something like that, but nothing will happen. But this is really great that you've gotten this going, and congratulations on it. And I'm sure it'll keep having a really, hopefully a successful life even after you've graduated and gone.
Yeah,
with luck. So.
That's what we're trying to put some organization into it now, so it'll actually keep going.
Yeah. That's terrific.
Because right now, I know how to do everything. It's pretty easy. I mean, you can just go read the stuff and learn how to do it, but you don't know how to do everything. I need to teach everyone else how to do that. So
awesome. Well, very well done. Hats off to you for that. Getting the ball rolling at UT. And in addition to talking about the group, you had something that you wanted to, another thing you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, last time when Emery was here, a caller, John, was talking about heaven and the afterlife. I don't remember exactly why or what it was said, but that's actually thinking about heaven and the afterlife is one of the things that got me sort of questioning what the whole religion God thing. I just didn't understand it. When I believed, I just didn't really think about it, and I thought, that's nice, but I didn't really think about the specifics of it. And once I started thinking, it just didn't make much sense. And for there even to be heaven, there has to be souls. I mean, it seems like. you have to have something that actually goes somewhere or exists somewhere for to have an experience. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, knowing even, elementary school biology, I don't understand how there can even be a soul. Like, what the heck is that?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's as many definitions of the word soul as there are various religions and religious traditions in the world. And so, to get a really sharp operational definition of what that thing is and where is it, that's something I'm very curious about too.
What does it do? There's one of my literature teacher a couple semesters ago showed us this picture of this like illustration of what the mind is like, and there's basically you see like the outline of a head, and then this guy is sitting there with these like a periscope and like little levers and
inside the head, you mean?
Yeah, like and it's got these little things coming in from the ears, and the thing is like, so there's this head and there's this guy inside operating it. Well, what about that guy? I mean, that guy's got a head.
That guy's head.
And like it keeps going.
Regression.
So that's the thing. Like, if you people say there's like this essence or this like point of view from your body and this like personality and stuff, and they think I don't know why, but they think your body can't have that thing. You need this supernatural soul thing to make it animate or whatever. But what about the soul? I mean, it would need something. How does it have a personality?
What powers it? What creates? If the soul is this sort of non-corporeal version of you that's living inside you somewhere, then what makes it go? What does it? What is it? What is it made of? And how does it sustain itself? Is it alive? Is the soul alive in the way that we understand living? I mean, does the soul have its own kind of biological metabolic processes? And then when you die, how does it get out of you and go somewhere, and how does it get there? All these little detailed questions that you try to put to devoutly religious people, and you get all these...
Is the soul just a parasite in our body?
I had an email exchange with this woman who I don't think she was Scientologist actually, but she was also one of these, she believed in souls and thought she talked to the dead and all this, and she was into reincarnation and everything. And she would give me all these wild contradictory answers. She would say like, well, the soul doesn't occupy any physical space. And then 2 sentences later she'd say, well, it's inside your head. And I'm like, okay. Notice how these two don't mix. And she... And I tried to explain to her, and it is weird just the way people who have these kinds of belief systems and they hold them this strongly, they just, they're like this when you try to hit them with the hardball questions. And she was going on through the reincarnation concept about how souls just kind of, trying to tell me that I'd had all these past lives and that souls just kind of go from body to body to body to body. And I said, okay, so basically our bodies, we're just these host organisms for these parasitical entities called souls. And that's really all we are. And we have
you on a good side
we have no purpose beyond that. And I tried to tell her, your belief system, why do you think your belief system in any way enhances the experience of life? This is not a belief system that enhances life. This is a belief system that cheapens life. This is a belief system that says the only purpose to having a living body is to be a host organism for a soul. This parasitical thing called a soul, which is like the spiritual equivalent of a guy who goes out to bars every night and sleeps with a different chick. There's like, that's all it is, and there's no meaning to it beyond that. And I tried to, explain to her why this is not any sort of a belief system that enriches the living experience. And her response was like, oh well, I guess you're just going to have to die to figure out that you're not going to die when you die. Like,
whatever.
Lady, I guess,
I think a lot of it is just people have, the thoughts in their head, the consciousness, and also emotions, and they just they can't understand how physical processes could possibly cause that. Chemical reactions and stuff like that. Input stimulus, you get processed in your brain, and all of a sudden, you feel sad. They don't want to admit that that's chemicals and, electrical impulses in your brain. It's got to be something else.
Because that's something
we can't explain.
It's unromantic.
Exactly. So it's not as beautiful as a soul.
It's another thing, like how does, the soul apparently is like this emotional thing that makes decisions, but how does the soul get information like what you see and what you feel, that sort of thing? Like, how does the sensory input get to your soul? And then how does the soul give out commands back to your brain? I mean,
It's got to have a process.
Yeah.
It's got to have electrical processes.
Maybe some of our callers can answer these questions.
Yeah, that's
and find out.
It's kind of unfortunate that you started taking calls.
Oh, we want to go ahead and get the phone
beforehand,
number.
but I kind of want the calls to like try and I want people to.
Well, maybe the people
give their
want to
opinion.
know answers.
Well, maybe we'll get some opinions from the people waiting.
We want answers, not questions.
Yeah. Well, the first of whom is Kevin. I'm sorry.
Well, I want to go into like heaven and stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, maybe we can do. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and take Kevin, because he's been holding just for a long time.
Yeah.
We want to go ahead and give him a chance. And hey, you're on the air.
Yes, hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Thanks for waiting.
First thing I want to say is, if you don't see it, it doesn't exist.
Well, I don't know about that.
I can't see you.
I mean, I can't see my own skeleton, so.
You have cars?
I'm sorry?
You have cars?
Sure do.
Do I see it?
You don't see it right now, and neither do I, because I'm inside the studio.
Really?
Yeah.
But do you know you have a car?
Because I've driven around in it. So there. But however,
I can go out in the parking lot and check on mine.
Yeah. So, but there's a big difference there, right? I mean, I have seen at some point in time in my life, and do kind of regularly during the day, my car. So I have some pretty good confirmation that it exists. I've never seen my soul. Okay. I mean, and I don't know anyone else who's ever seen theirs, and I don't know of any soul that's ever turned upon an MRI or a CAT scan or any other sort of biological examination of the human body. So, it takes a little bit more. I'm going to need a little bit more evidence for the existence of something like that.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Okay.
Wow, that was easy.
Okay. I thought he would have had more. Okay. I think we've lost line 2, but who's line 3 is blinking. So we'll figure out. Now, what do you want to say about heaven?
Well, let's see. Oh, what are you saying? You don't have if you don't see it, you might believe it exists. But there are a lot of people get really caught up on sight. I mean, it is our most important sense. But like black holes, we can't see them or hear them or anything else, but we can notice the change in gravitational patterns of planets. There are other ways of detecting things than just.
I can't see music.
Air.
Yeah.
Can't see air.
Right.
Put it in a balloon.
But there are many different ways that we have to sense things. And, just none of the sensory apparatus that we've got or that we've developed or that we've built or what have you has really managed ever to detect anything that could be termed supernatural. And those that seem to have, right, it usually tends to be misinterpretations of natural phenomena. Like you get photographs of ghosts or something. And generally speaking, it's some photographic artifact where you'll get a light, flaring in the lens or something like that. But it's very difficult to pin these supernatural concepts down, from a standpoint of evidence. And you need stronger evidence than usual. So, okay, Susan is now on 3. Let's see what she has to say. Susan?
Yes?
Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, how are you today?
We're fine.
Good. Well, I just was thinking about atheism versus fundamentalism. And it seems like that's two things on opposite ends of the spectrum, the continuum. And you can't really prove one thing or another. Correct? The existence or non-existence.
Right, but remember that in any sort of claim of this nature, right, if you want to claim that a God exists, if you want to claim that any sort of supernatural entity exists, the burden of proof lies upon the person making the positive claim, the person claiming the existence of the thing in question. If someone wants to say, there's a God who rules the universe, or if someone wants to say, I have a pet unicorn, or if someone wants to say, I was kidnapped by a UFO the other day, they're the ones who bear the burden of proof to show that that claim is actually true. Until they do, I don't really have any good reason to believe them. And so I can justifiably say, well, I don't believe you until I see some proof. And that's all atheism is.
Right.
We're the guys saying, okay, until we see good evidence of your God, we choose to refrain from believing.
So you don't believe in anything that you can't see or prove?
No. Remember, I said I can't see my truck right now. Okay, but I know it exists. There are standards of evidence that apply in general ways, right? You can't see X-rays, but we have means of detecting them. Any sort of means of detecting things that are out there that we can sense in our lives, if you can't, if the evidence just isn't forthcoming, no matter what kind of... You guys are bouncing back and forth on these cameras and confusing me. whatever standards of evidence that you want to apply need to sort of be applied across the board. And if we have good, strong scientific evidence for things like, black holes, distant stars, things that we need special tools to detect, radiation, you need special tools to be able to detect that sort of thing. But, so far supernatural claims haven't really stood up to those same kinds of tests.
But you're not trying to disprove the existence of God either, because that's impossible, correct?
Well, right, yeah.
Right.
Given most definitions of God, there are certain ones that you could say it doesn't exist or it does exist, but generally.
Well, I came across the concept of God that actually I don't believe in God in the traditional sense, but I do believe in love, and I do believe in truth, and I do believe in order or beauty. And to me, that's my concept of God.
Okay, well, that's fine.
And those things are, to me, very real. And so they also underlie, there's some mystical qualities to those concepts that do touch our lives. And there's a certain amount of reality to that. And I just want to mention that I'm in the healthcare profession, and I've seen people die. And the difference from 1 second to the next, from when they're alive and when they're dead, is profound. And so it can't just be something that's purely physical from what I've seen with my own eyes, because the physical body changes so much. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but and so I'll go ahead and give everybody a turn here. When you have all metabolic processes shutting down, that's quite a lot. So I think it's not surprising that you would see a very sharp physical change between a living body and a dead body. But now again, it seems to me that's fine. If you want to define God in terms of things like love, beauty, truth, that's fine. That's your privilege. The reason that I would probably be disinclined to do that is that kind of seems to me to be a pointless exercise, right? I mean, it seems to me that all you've done, right, is you've just come up with a new word for words like love, beauty, truth, that sort of thing, and we already have perfectly good words for those concepts.
That's my equivalent.
I
don't really believe in some male entity, because the truth is okay, God as a male is a total fallacy, because what is gender? Gender is anatomy, and gender is physiology. And God doesn't have either one of those things. So God has the gender of electricity or air or water, if there is a God. And so that God has the same gender as truth or love. And so to me, it doesn't really matter one way or the other, because as human beings, we're never going to be able to come to a conclusion about this. But I know that mysteries exist. I know that mystical experiences exist. I know that there's more to life than meets the eye. And that's all that I need to know. And I think that when people try to disprove the most wonderful aspect of life, which is the unity of all life and the web of life and the network of life, that we diminish ourselves. So I just want to caution you guys against arguing against some of the most beautiful things
that
might exist, which we can't prove.
Well, let me respond to that, though, and then because I think that what you define as the most beautiful, the way you are interpreting and the way you are choosing to define, what makes life beautiful, might not necessarily be what we think of it, okay? Remember, now, I don't believe in necessarily mystical things. I don't believe in supernatural or magical concepts. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think life has any beauty. We as atheists, generally speaking, we don't see the need to attach supernatural or mystical significance to the things in our daily lives in order to appreciate the beauty of them. It's like the example that we give on our website is... someone, if you're walking through a garden with a friend of yours, and it's a beautiful garden, and you think, wow, this is a really beautiful garden. And your friend says, there are elves who live in this garden. And you look around and you say to yourself, well, I can't really see the elves. I don't see any evidence of any elves. And your friend says, well, how can you appreciate the beauty of this garden if you don't believe in the elves? It seems to me your friend's missing the point. here I am, trying to appreciate this beautiful garden just in its own sake.
Oh, yeah.
And my friend is trying to tell me, no, you have to attach all this supernatural significance to it in order to have this appreciation of the beauty of it. See, that's where we're coming from.
Right.
And I think that's where you're misunderstanding us.
I don't think I'm misunderstanding you, but but I think that you're on the edge. You're kind of on the line of trying to define everything as physiological, and I don't really believe that that's true. Mm-hmm. But I don't think there's no need really to prove one thing or another. And I think that that's kind of a divisive thing.
Oh.
And I think that there are, in my experience, there are mystical experiences, but that's just because I've experienced them myself. And everything that we experience on this realm has a physiologic component to it, because we're physiologic beings, and everything that we perceive has to have some kind of electrical or neurological input. So everything, even after-death experiences and everything, is all definable on a neurological basis or physiologic basis. So that does not mean that it doesn't also have a spiritual component to it, just because it is also attached to a physical component. So I just want to, that's not a proof to me, is all I'm saying. And, I'm not against atheism. In fact, I think Christian fundamentalism, in my mind, is a very dangerous thing. So,
you guys go ahead and respond. I have to talk.
One thing, it seems, correct me if I'm wrong here, did you say it's not necessary to prove the soul of the mystical events or something like that?
No, I don't think it's necessary to prove one way or the other, but I think, in my experience, I know that they exist.
Okay, well, proving that these things actually exist and having a way to do that would be kind of helpful in the world. Again, knowing how these things work and how they interact with, our physical body would be something that we'd really like to know about and should have some way of testing. Again, what does the soul take care of? If it's, how your moods and how you feel and stuff like that. Well, what about mood disorders? Is there a way that we could treat the soul or this mystical, entity, to get rid of mood disorders rather than, whatever chemicals that we have now that interact with brain chemistry and serotonin and all that kind of stuff?
One way of treating that kind of thing is using a mystical experience of love itself. That is a very powerful. Love is a power. Yeah. It's a power that transcends.
Well, it's something
impulses or whatever.
Well, it's something that I feel towards another person, and it gets me to act in ways that I would not otherwise act had I not had those feelings. But I don't think that says that there's something outside of me or outside of any physical processes that cause that.
Yeah, why is it necessary to define these states of mind or these emotional experiences as anything above and beyond just emotional experiences? What's wrong with emotional experiences simply being understood as emotional experiences?
The reason is because the whole is more than the sum of its parts.
Well, what do you mean by that? That's a very vague, new agey kind of statement.
That phenomenon does exist. It has to do with energy. It has to do with.
Well, see, I think it's an emotional response, right? And it exists in different degrees too.
It has to do with the wavelengths of energy and whether they.
See, now you're starting to talk in very specific kind of terms, and so. All right, now if you want, this is where we get into why it's necessary and why it's desirable to prove things. Because if you want to tell me that love has to do with wavelengths of energy, now I want to know what is this energy, where does it emit from, well, how do you measure these wavelengths?
Well, I don't think that's necessary. I don't think it's possible to prove, but we can see what exists. We can see what exists, and we know that energy states either lose energy or they'll gain energy, and you know that when wavelengths add together, they're going to either add together to increase each other and maybe get into a resonant state, into some resonance, or it's going to get into a static state where it just the wavelengths cancel each other out and the energy diminishes. So those kind of states do exist.
Okay, but what's that got to do with love? What's that got to do with just a man's emotional response to his spouse?
Love tends to increase the resonance in any kind of circumstance or situation.
So if there's an actual energy level here that that is assumably measurable in some way or another, would it be possible to make, a counterweight beam that would cancel out love?
Yeah, I mean,
you shoot this electrical beam at somebody and they don't love anymore.
I think too much analysis can do that.
But see, I think it's ironic that you say that, because it seems to me that you're analyzing the hell out of this whole concept of love. You're attaching all of this, wavelengths and growing and increasing, and it's like, why is it necessary to discuss love in these terms? Why not just let love be the thing that it is, which is a wonderful emotional experience? And Charles, you go ahead. I mean, it's your turn, but I'm just trying to give you guys a couple. Excuse me, I'm just trying to give you guys a couple things to think about. That's all.
I'm an electrical engineer, and I just took a class. Electromagnetic engineering, and we deal with electromagnetic waves and the propagation of waves and wavelengths and all this stuff. And it'd be really easy to test this stuff. You get someone emitting love waves, and you get someone on the other side of a wall emitting love waves, and you see if they can detect each other. So
I
don't
think it has to be a wall doesn't have to be between them. I think that it can be something that you can measure even with people facing each other. I think that there's a state of health and there's a state of disease, and we all know what that is. We don't necessarily know.
Yeah, but see, what Charles is saying.
My mom is a epidemiologist, and disease is like when something gets in your body, and it's a bacteria or a virus, or it's not like some negative energy thing.
Right,
it's very real.
Different people can respond differently to the same kind of. Substances, one person can get the disease and the other person doesn't. Yeah. So,
but just
physiology accounts for that.
But I just want you to understand what Charles was just describing. The reason for the wall and everything is that what you've been talking about for the last several minutes, describing love in terms of wavelengths and energies and this and that, seems to me that you're defining love now in these kinds of testable terms. The mystical aspects of love, you're defining them in testable terms. So what Charles is doing is he's saying, great, if love can be measured in wavelengths and energies and what have you, here's a really workable scientific, it's called a double-blind test. So you don't have the people involved in the experiment seeing each other. And if the waves are detectable, then we know you're right. Okay, and then it's proved, and that's why. Yeah.
There's no way to prove anything at all. But like I said, every phenomenon that we experience in this life has measurable physiologic ramifications, or you can measure all this stuff. And so the thing that you can't measure or see is where this all comes from. And, I don't think we're ever going to be able to prove or disprove, but only through direct experience. Sort of like if someone is saying, come on in, the water's fine, and you can't really know what it's like to dive into the lake of a spiritual experience until you've done it yourself.
Yeah, but I know. But I guess, my experience has been, talking to folks like yourself and people who call this show up, that whenever I hear people describing to me what they refer to as a spiritual experience, generally what I tend to get is this definition that has to do with describing a very emotionally fulfilling experience that, in addition to being emotionally fulfilling, tends to reinforce in that person and validate the belief system, whatever belief system it is that they hold. That tends to be what I get when I hear people describe to me what are spiritual experiences. I've had people describe just viewing sunsets as spiritual experiences. I've had people describe to me the love they have for their wives and children as spiritual. And generally speaking, those people are, in addition to that, they have a very either profoundly religious upbringing, or they've developed a belief system like yourself, which is, I guess, kind of, different and out of the mainstream. But generally speaking, there's this belief system, and they seek these emotional experiences to validate that belief system. And it seems to me that that's all you're doing, and that's fine.
I have no belief system to validate. Personally, I don't. My experiences actually form my belief system.
Yeah.
So, so I have no preconceived idea. Okay. I came to Jesus not through Jesus, but from my own experience, and I'm not a Christian.
Yeah.
So, I know the truth of Jesus' teachings because of my own experience, not because of anybody that told me I'm supposed to believe.
Right. Well, we got it. I think we understand. And listen, we appreciate hearing from you. Right. We got a couple of other callers lined up. And
thanks for talking.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And, you take care and call us back anytime, okay?
Bye, guys.
Bye.
I think it's interesting also, mention that she works in a hospital or something like that and deals, with death and life issues, stuff like that. And mentioning that when somebody dies, it's a very observable thing. They look very different between, living and dead, that minute section or whatever. I think a big reason for that is if you actually took a picture of somebody before and after, there's not that much of a difference. What is actually happening? One, it's a lot of emotion. You know, you this new knowledge that you have, you know that they're not alive anymore, and so it's different. That's scary.
It's kind of creepy. Yeah.
And also, we look at people all day long. I mean, there are 7 of us in the studio right now. Your brain learns what a face looks like real fast. And it learns, you know, what's not quite right also, which is why if you have, you know, a computer program that generates a 3D face, it may be really, really close, but there's still something not quite right about it. You can't put your finger on it, but it's just not right.
Yeah.
And, you know, paintings, drawing, same thing. You can tell it's not real. Yeah. There's something off kilter about it. And so when somebody dies and, as you said, biological processes stop.
Yeah, like all your muscles go slack for one thing. So you get drawn faces.
Yeah, there's something in the face that, you know, is off kilter from every other live person you have ever seen. And you can't put your finger on it, but something's not quite right with them.
Yeah. But basically, you know, what Susan was doing, right, was she was just she's describing what I hear from people who are either religious or spiritual or what have you. It's just filtering personal experiences through the belief system that they've either inherited or developed, like she said she's developed. That's just what people do. And that is, for a lot of people, the function of, I guess, spirituality in their lives, is to help them. You know, it's a way that they can kind of come to an understanding of what all this all this life stuff is all about. Yeah. But I think it's also coupled with this unwillingness to think that, well, or this a distaste for the idea that, it can't just be purely physical.
Yeah.
If it's purely physical, then what's the point?
Yeah.
That's another thing you get from a lot of religious people. It's like, well, if there is no heaven, there is no hell, and there are no souls, and there is no magic, and there is no other realm that we go to, what's the point of it all? Are we just big pieces of walking, talking meat, and we're born to die, and is that it?
Yeah.
You know, it seems pointless without all that. So that's why people have to, attach these kinds of spiritual concepts to life. Yeah. But good idea for the test, by the way. Okay,
it's
Steve.
pretty simple.
Yeah,
Can you break walls with love?
Yeah. That's how therapeutic touch was debunked.
Yeah.
Very simple. Okay, line 2 then. Stephen, been holding a long time. Thank you very much. And, hey, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing?
We're good?
I just wanted to bring up an interesting concept, something I read, having to do with God being energy. I read somewhere about the Ark of the Covenant and how the designs for it allowed for static electricity to build up. And also because of the fact that it wasn't allowed to be touched, the static electricity was able to build up, over time, and that's why that man was struck down from keeping it falling. And things like that.
So the ox cart driver was zapped to death.
I was wearing socks.
Over to you, Charles, the electrical engineer. Tell us what the likelihood of that would be. Is there any way to design a thing that would be more inclined to have a static electrical discharge than not? That wasn't like plugged into the wall.
Let's see.
Come on, this will be on the final.
I'd basically have to be a capacitor against whatever is going to touch it, and then you put them together and you get electrical charge. I mean, let's see. I don't know. I can't think of it.
Well, all we have to do is find that pesky Ark of the Covenant to test that theory.
Everybody wears socks around it, put it on the carpet, walk up to it and zap.
Or just stand a ways back. Yeah. Okay. Well, again, we would certainly have have no way of confirming what that article about the Ark of the Covenant says is true, unless, of course, we could find it and test it.
Well, that's something that you've never heard of, though, before.
I haven't heard that.
Really, anything can build up electricity. What it'd have to do is have some way of collecting the electrons. So it'd have to have something. I mean, the only thing I can think of is it collect them from the wind. So it'd have to have some sort of fins on it that would, in such a way that when the wind blows across it, they'd gather electrons about it. But that's about it, all I can think of.
I just thought it was an interesting idea. I think.
But as soon as you set it down, zap, it goes into the ground.
Yeah. So
they'd have to carry
That's why they didn't want him to drop it, because they wanted to keep the chart.
Well, if they dropped it, it'd touch the ground, and as soon as it would have already discharged by the time he touched it.
Well, but when it killed Uzzah, it all went into him, and he died, and so that so he blew it.
Okay.
So it's now you have this powerless Ark of the Covenant. But I like the idea of an Ark of the Covenant with fins, though. Now we get
1950s style.
Now if it has a hood ornament, and leather bucket seats, I'm all for it. Hey, thanks for your call. All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
Okay. And we have yet another Stephen on line 1. Hey, you're on the air.
Hello there.
How are you doing?
All right, sir. My purpose here is not to win an argument or anything, is to, make friends, maybe, to keep a contact and everything. But I got a question and a comment. Forgive me, I don't mean to sound awful or anything, but
whatever you say, I'm sure we've heard worse.
Well, not from me.
Sorry.
But anyway, I understand. I'm a Christian. I understand that atheists they don't believe there's a God anywhere in the universe.
Yes.
And you have, in other words, in my way of thinking, you'd have to have been everywhere in the universe.
Right.
Well.
So I'll go first on Charles. First off, of course, as Charles mentioned, we want to get definitions of things. And so first off, well, what does it mean for there to be a God? Now, I'm actually willing to admit that there could very well, I don't categorically deny that it's possible for anything that could ever possibly be called a God to exist under any circumstances. I don't deny that at all. For example, you could have a guy who worships the sun. As the sun goes overhead every day, and he says, that's my God. Every day I'll bow down to the sun, like an ancient Egyptian, I'll worship it. Yeah, and the ancient Egyptians did in fact worship the sun. So, in one sense, their God existed, right? Because we know the sun exists. Now, I might disagree that the sun has any sort of magical powers. I might disagree that there's any good reason to call the sun a God. But if there's somebody who really believes that the sun is a God and he wants to worship it, then fine, I'll grant him that right, and I'll be willing to agree that his God exists. I might not take him seriously. I might not decide that his God is a God for my purposes, but so that would be a God that could exist. But I don't get the impression that that's what most people mean when they think of a God. So if you want to talk to me about some kind of supernatural entity who creates universes and exists in a realm that we can't detect, that's outside the universe and what have you, and all of these concepts that are difficult to establish and prove, I'm going to have a hard time believing that without evidence.
Could I say something?
Yeah. I was just trying to answer you.
With all due respect, I hope, we could all be friends,
I was just trying to answer your question. That's
all right. I respect it. I respect all your answers.
Okay.
God, my God, created us, and He gave us the right to choose, and it's not for me to take that away from y'all. That's your God-given right.
We don't necessarily
disagree on that.
We wouldn't call it God-given, but we do think that as intelligent beings, we have the right to think about stuff and make decisions.
Well, now speaking from my experience, because I was saved by my experience, and I hope someday that y'all experience what I feel. But what I'm saying is that unless the Holy Spirit opens your heart where you can believe, I could talk to you all day long, and you would never understand what I'm saying about Jesus. No offense intended. It's not. It's just none of us are good. We just. I was down and out when I turned to Jesus, and it's just an unbelievable experience, and I believe everybody has to get to that point in life to where.
Okay, but when you're down and out, and when things are not going your way, and you're having bad luck, and you've got bad health problems or whatever, is that really the best time in your life to be making decisions about whether or not there's a supernatural being watching out for you? Or is it when you're healthy and you have all your faculties with you and you can make informed, solid decisions?
Yeah.
And you don't want to wait until, you're on your deathbed to deal with your financial aspects of life.
Yeah.
It's not the best time in the world.
Yeah, and above and beyond that point, are you suggesting that for people who aren't down and out and who are, rather relatively happy with their station in life and everything's going pretty well, that religion's just not really needed? Maybe you don't need God if you're not down and out. Is that what you're implying?
Yes, sir. I've got relatives right here in town that's a multimillionaire, and all they want is one more dollar. You know, they're lost, and I don't mean to sound bad, but that's my relatives, and I've been to family reunions, and it would be hard for them to give away all they got, but yet at the same time they want more. They can't. But if you see, when they're rich, and I can see their problem, because they just want more and more. They don't want God in their life because they got everything. But they don't realize that they're going to leave this world just like they came in it.
No, well, everyone is. I mean, and I'm sure that I don't know that. I mean, I don't know your relatives, but I mean, I'm sure that none of them are laboring under the delusion that just because they're rich, they're immortal. I mean, they'll probably, they probably know that they're going to die someday, but they're enjoying, life as it is, right? I mean,
well, our soul lives forever.
Okay, over to you, Charles. This is where we came in.
What is the soul? I mean, how does it work? How do you? How does your soul get the experiences you have, and how does it make decisions, and how does that? I don't know. What does it do?
Well, we get it all from God, and if you study the Bible for 1 year, or if you study it, if you get real serious and you want to really find out who God is, the God of the Bible, he will let you know him if you're really serious.
I have a friend who's a religious studies major, and he reads the Bible for fun, and that's he spends a lot of time doing that, and he hasn't found a soul or anything like that. So
it's in there. It's in there. I could.
But why believe it?
That's your choice. Your choice.
There should. I mean, just because a book says it doesn't mean you should believe it. I mean, there should be some other way to find out whether there's a soul or not.
It's interesting that I'm glad you brought that up, because when I was in the world and I was just not saved, I played cards and gambling, and forgive me, but anybody that doesn't believe in Jesus Christ as their personal Savior, they're the biggest gamblers in the universe.
Oh, so we're back to Pascal's wager.
Pascal.
Well, how do you know? Well, hang on. I assume that as a Christian, right?
Yes,
you don't believe in any of the ancient Egyptian gods, do you?
No, sir.
Well, aren't you a little worried that you're taking a gamble? I mean, what if the Egyptians were right all along, and what if their version of the underworld and the afterlife is the real one? Isn't that a gamble that you're not subscribing to their belief system?
No, sir.
What makes you so sure of that?
Because what separates Christianity from all the other religions is the fact that the death, burial, and bodily resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Well, actually, there are quite a number of religions in history that predated Christianity that had a resurrected Savior at the center point of it.
And still, the only evidence we have is one book's worth of. This is the only book that has ever said anything about him actually rising from the dead.
Yeah.
I could bring another book on here that says, somebody went down a rabbit hole and found a whole other world with, the Queen of Spades.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. If you go back to Josephus and all those historians, Josephus was born only 4 years after the crucifixion. If you study Josephus, they're just...
are you aware that scholars are in general agreement that the passage about Jesus in Josephus's book, Antiquities of the Jews, is a forgery?
No, sir, I don't believe that.
Well, that's the opinion of biblical scholars, and there's a lot of evidence to back up that view. For example, there's a first-century Christian writer named Origen, who was a big historian of the early days of the Christian faith. He never referenced Josephus in any of his writings.
He referenced Josephus, but not that passage.
Not that passage.
Which would have been really helpful for his cause.
Yeah, the Testimonium Flavinium. And it's well known that at the time Jesus is said to have lived in Judea, the worship of Mithra was very widespread, and Mithra was something like 300 or 400 years. You say something like that before Jesus' time, and he was a Messiah, a messianic figure who was said to have been born of a virgin, born in a cave. The early Christian writings had Jesus born in a cave, not a manger. And he was crucified for his troubles and came back to life. And this was a well-established religion in Judea and in those areas at the time Jesus is said to have lived. So it's known through scholars that the Christian faith has borrowed from many pre-Christian traditions.
Well, forgive me, but I don't believe any of that.
Well,
but what I'm saying,
it's what biblical scholars who have studied the Bible for years and years have to say.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we don't expect you to. We're just telling you what the scholarship says, and there is, and we have, and we've read a lot of this stuff. I mean, these aren't questions that we haven't dealt with, amongst ourselves before.
Well, let me say one more thing, and I know you're busy.
Yeah, we're going to want to get to our next caller after this.
But real quick, all I can say is if you really want to learn who Jesus is, you have to get into the Bible and let that Holy Spirit work on you, and you will learn.
That's right. I mean, if you want to believe in something badly enough, you will. You'll convince yourself of it. There's no mystery there. But we appreciate your call, sir, and feel free to call us back anytime and ask us any questions you like.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, there are lots of people in the group who have read the Bible cover to cover more than once, and they're part of the Atheist Community of Austin.
Yeah.
The former co-host to this show, David Clark, went to Bible seminary school.
That's right. And he was into it for a while. He actually performed baptisms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he's now atheist, so.
Didn't really get a definition of what a soul was, did we? Well, maybe next guy. We'll have it. Who's next? Jeff is on line 3. Let's see about it. Hey, you're on the air.
Hey, Martin, how you doing?
Oh, we're good. What's up?
You guys were talking about the proving of this existence of a God or non-existence of a God.
Oh, evidence is always helpful.
Evidence, the burden of proof. You're talking about how the burden of proof lies upon those who are trying to prove that something is a positive or true. And you're right, it is much easier to prove something is false than it is true, but...
Well, no, you can't. I mean, it's a fundamental tenet of logic that you can't prove a negative.
You find one existence where it's false and you're done, whereas if you're trying to prove that it's true...
you're talking about falsifiability.
Right.
It's a scientific term. Okay.
But could you not manipulate the same words, the same logic, into the sense where, okay, if I walk outside right now and if I'm trying to say true, is it true or false? There is a God being true, there isn't being false. I walk outside and I see a star falls out of the sky into my backyard and starts talking to me. Okay, there you go. I've proven that it's true. Now, on the other hand, for me to prove that it's false would be a never-ending journey, a never-ending mission or hope. And the question that I had for you, with that in mind, was that by establishing atheism as a group or a community, it seems in a sense that you're giving up the search, giving up looking for that. To me, I know I can see you guys have a strong imagination, and I'm sure you can imagine nothing or ceasing to exist, and that has to drive you just straight cold. And I'm sure that's a whole other topic that you guys could probably argue otherwise.
Well, not really. I mean, think of it. Do you remember? I'm sorry, I'll let you go. I was just going to say, do you remember existing in any sort of state before you were born? I mean,
no,
does that drive you cold?
No,
you know what? Thinking of that
Martin?
State of non-existence the day before you were born, does that drive you cold?
And you know what, Martin? That right there is what scares the bleep out of me.
Okay.
And that's funny. I just got a call waiting bleep as I said that too. Okay. Maybe that's a sign right
that's
there.
That's it. It's God calling. Well, maybe we'll let you go ahead and take that call, but we'll.
Go ahead. And,
okay. Ashley first, and then I'll answer last.
You had said something about. It seems as if we had given up on the search being atheist. Well, that's what we have a show for every week. Every week, God has a chance to come in and, say, hello. So, he hasn't done it yet. So, that's what we do every week. Every week we're talking about this and discussing it and looking at it from different angles.
So you would say that being atheist is still meaning that I just think that, like I was saying, you can never. I think you guys will agree with me that you're not going to be able to prove it either way.
Well, again, it's not our job to prove anything, right? We're the people who say we don't believe the claims that are being made by theists who say there is a God.
And there's an important distinction between saying we don't believe in God and there is no God.
Right.
We're not denying the existence.
Okay.
We're saying it's pretty improbable, but it's possible.
Okay. I guess that clears my understanding of atheism, and I'm confused now as to the difference between agnostic and atheist.
Okay. Well, agnosticism is and Gnosticism, right? Opposites. That's basically an empirical.
You don't know.
It's basically an empirical statement. It has to do with what you think the limits of human knowledge are. Whereas theism and atheism are terms that deal with belief as apart from knowledge. So an atheism or theism refers to what a person believes or doesn't believe, whereas a Gnostic or an agnostic that's a claim about what you think you actually know. So they cover two different areas.
Okay.
We've talked to a lot of people on this show who are agnostic theists. Okay, they admit that they don't know and can't prove that a God exists, but they say, for reasons of my own, I choose to believe that maybe there is one. That would be an agnostic theist. I would define myself as agnostic and atheist. Many people in our group would. Charles, what about you? What do you call yourself?
I don't know. Having read some excerpts from Thomas Huxley's Agnosticism, it sounds like he's saying that he doesn't think humans can ever know anything about the supernatural. And I'm not sure I agree with that. So I would consider myself an atheist, but not an agnostic.
Okay.
But
Gnostic theist? Gnostic atheist?
Well, no. I mean,
oh, you're agnostic about agnosticism.
I guess.
Okay.
Well, Gnostics think that they have absolute knowledge about God, or they can know God directly.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. See, I mean, if there were a God and he wanted to reveal himself to me, I mean, I could know him directly. It seems like.
Yeah. It seems like especially an all-powerful being should have any infinite number of ways that he could just make it unambiguously clear. And settle the issue once and for all.
So by declaring myself atheist, would that mean that I was indeed giving up the search, or would that be saying that I am certain that?
According to the definition I use of atheist, just the lack of belief in God, every baby is born an atheist.
Okay, so could an atheist believe in a possibility of God?
Yeah.
Well, possibilities of everything. I believe in the possibility of unicorns. I just don't think there are any. I mean, you have to distinguish between possibility and probability, and there are all these different, gray areas that you have to work through.
But do you guys not have hope for that possibility?
Well, I mean, again, why should I? Well, see, we're coming from different paradigms in terms of how we even think about these things. Why is it necessary or desirable for us to have hope about the existence of a God? Why? I mean, my life, I'm enjoying my life as it is. Why?
I agree it's very selfish. I mean, I'm thankful for the existence that I have now, and I agree that is a bit selfish to want more or to hope to want it to last forever. That seems selfish. I should just be, thankful for what I do have and what I haven't.
Oh, but I don't have a problem with the selfishness. I mean, I don't have a problem with people wanting to live forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with people wanting to defeat death. I don't have a problem with people wanting there to be other realms that we go to and travel to and what have you. I don't have a problem with that. But as long as your reasons are sound, and that's fine. And I need, and we as atheists, it is true that we tend to be a little bit more concrete in our thinking and maybe even materialist in our thinking than people who have this inclination towards spirituality. I mean, we don't really think of things like, you might, or Susan, who called us earlier, did. We just, to us, it's a physical world and it's a material world, and that's fine.
Well, I think I'm an atheist. I'm just, the terms it's all terminology, so I'm not really 100%. But I would think that. See, the thing is, I feel different chemical makeup in the brain and different potentials of imagination. I believe that I have the ability to envision or imagine nothing, whereas, say, my wife, she can think about dying and it just doesn't bother her at all. Well. For example, I think just by looking at you guys, I would say that Martin it isn't as bothered by it, whereas Corey, you seem like maybe there's a little more fearling.
Oh, you're thinking of the movie show, yeah. Ashley.
No,
Or Charles.
Charles. Charles seems like maybe he's got a little more. I don't know. I'm reading it a little too much, but whereas Martin, you seem like maybe you haven't really conceptualized the lack of existence.
Actually, I do. You know when I think about death most. This is what's weird. Just call me strange, but when I have to get up at like 3 a.m. to use the bathroom, I think of it. It's like I don't know why I think of it then, but someday I always think, one of these days I'll be dead, and I'll never have to do things like going to the bathroom again. And that'll be weird. I don't know why. That's when I think about death. It's like I'm never going to have this experience of voiding myself at all. Maybe that's an advantage of death. I don't know. I just believe in kind of just facing up to stuff. And hey, look, if there are these other realms and spiritual stuff and gods and what have you, hey, show us the evidence. We'll be happy with it. But we got to run. We're out of time. We got one more caller to take.
One
Okay.
last question. Do you guys think that different individuals struggle more with the idea of death than others?
Oh, of course.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And how do you think atheism plays into that? Or from the different members of your community or your organization, what have you noticed? It's something that might help me become comfortable with being.
Okay. Well, we'll address that question.
Hang up and listen.
Okay. We'll let you. Thanks for the call. Okay, I'll let you guys deal with that. I'm going to sit that one out.
Okay. You can go.
As for death, a lot of religion gets off. It's where they get their pull is from having an answer to death. Thinking that, I don't like the fact that I'm going to die. That kind of sucks. I enjoy life. And so, the knowledge that it's going to most likely end, in 70 years, 60 years, whatever, that kind of sucks. But again, if I look at the real world and what I actually see out there, I don't see any evidence that it can go on. I can, do research and, fund companies that are doing life extension. But again, the fact that I'm going to die kind of sucks. But the real world and what I see doesn't give me any other choice but to see that, unfortunately it's going to end.
But doesn't the...
I'd be all for heaven if it were real.
But then again, think about what we were talking about. I'm sorry, you'll be next, Charles. I promise you. Isn't it the brevity and the fragility of life that makes it special? It makes you, motivates you to live every day to the fullest. Whereas, Emery, when we all went to dinner after, we were talking about, for example, heaven. Here you go, back to your topic. If you lived absolutely forever, right, and there was never going to be any end, then what would be the point of that? Why get out of bed?
To enjoy the experiences of life.
But if you can do it 9,000 years from now, why not stay in bed? No, why not stay in bed today and play Xbox?
Well, then maybe staying in bed playing Xbox is what I really want to do and enjoy today.
Procrastinators like me, that's as good as you get. But still,
we're gonna give Jimmy our last 2 minutes. I'm sorry to keep you until the end of the show, but we're gonna. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm okay. Thanks for getting my call here.
Yeah, sorry to go ahead.
That's okay. Albert Einstein said that the atom is like 99.9% open space and only 2% physical.
Listen,
and that's been proven. So everything that we see around us mainly is empty space. Just basically protons, neutrons, and electrons held together by this electrical force.
Cool.
Basically, what the body is nothing but a house for electrical energy. And there's a thing called chakras that every human being has, and those are the main electrical centers of the body that every human being has. And those chakras are activated in each person's life to understand who they are, where they've come from, and where they're going. And depending on how many of their chakras are activated, that what determines what they will be in their previous life, or how their present life will be.
I see. Well, then now we're fresh out of time, but thanks for that input. And why don't you call us next week early on, and we'll talk about that some more, okay?
All right.
Take care. And I don't think medical science is with you on the chakras thing, but the Matrix dealt with the whole idea of the human body as a big electrical battery anyway, right? So there we are. So anyway, Charles, we really appreciate you coming on the show. I don't think we got any answers to what heaven's like or what souls are like, but we'll keep plugging people on that, definitely, for sure. Ashley, thanks a lot. Thanks to our stalwart crew. UT students, don't forget, University Atheist Agnostics. Theists, we don't hate you. We just think you're